An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight? If someone could give me a shout out in the comments, let me know that you hear me. That would be great. We got a few people watching here now. Just doing a late stream tonight. I did a comic book team up with John. We ended up probably about an hour ago, maybe 45 minutes ago. We finished. We did an interview with Nick Axe, who is doing the art for Crom the Destroyer, and he wanted to talk about some of his own projects and some of his own ideas as well. Great. Final Fantasy says, you can hear me loud and clear. Great. So, for those of you who are regulars here, you might be wondering what exactly is going on, because I was supposed to have the comic book team up on my channel this Wednesday instead of doing a Making Comics Great Again, which is what this stream is. The reason for that is because Adam Miller is going to be launching his Iron Age Icon card set next Friday. And I figured I would give him as much of a platform as possible. So we're going to do comic book team up on my channel next week. So we flipped it around. We did John's again this week on John's channel. In case you were wondering where that stream is, go over to John's. You want to John's Longbox and see the stream we did there a couple hours ago with Nick Axe. But next week, the comic book team up is going to be here on my channel with Adam Miller. Couple of days before he launches his Iron Age Icons. And one of the reasons why, and I haven't told anybody this until tonight and starting on John's channel, one of my characters, Cardinal, which you're looking at in the background, is part of the Iron Age Icon card set that Adam Miller is doing with some other spectacular artists, well, some other spectacular characters, because Adam's doing the art for them all. He's doing, let's see, how many can I name off the top of my head? Only a couple. He's doing Private American is in one of the cards. He has Michael Bancroft's character from the Lucian. Who else we got in there? Cardoth is there as well. A lot of other indie greats basically CG greats, comics that have come out over the last couple of years. And again, my character Cardinal was chosen by Adam to be one of the Iron Age icons, and there's a card for Cardinal in with the package of cards that he is making. Again, that campaign of his is going live on Fund My Comic next Friday. So we're going to do a live stream next Wednesday with comic book team ups, and we're going to let's see, maybe I can pull up his his page for maybe his Twitter, but I might do that a little later on in this stream, basically showing some of the cards that he's going to be doing. Anyways, so that's the reason why we're doing the comic book team up on my channel next week. So I figured I would do just very quick, make comics great again, make comics fun again stream, which is this stream this week, just because I like to do at least one stream on my channel every Wednesday. And I am not entirely prepared to do a new topic, just because I've been working so hard to try to get my projects out there into the world. So I thought I would talk about an old project of mine, which is the idea of hero. So I'm going to just do my normal spiel about heroism and about the hero in all of us for, maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. And then I'll shout out everybody in the comments and see who's here and if anybody has any questions. So as usual, if anybody has any questions at all, they can ask them in the chat. And if you could put a question mark on them or tag me in them so that I know them for me, and you can ask me any question about any of my campaigns, anything I say tonight, anything I have to say on any of my videos, anything at all. So just tag me in them or put a question mark so I know you're speaking to me, and I'll try to answer all of those questions later on when I finish my spiel. So here's the thing I wanted to talk about tonight. And again, it's just old news, really, if you've been around my channel. It's the idea of hero, the idea of a virtuous hero. And the reason why I talk about heroes so much and I talk about them in the context of great storytelling is because really that's the easy access that each of us have to the ideas of heroism in our everyday life when we get to see extraordinary heroes in the venues of storytelling. And I always go back to, as I always say, the Aristotelian idea of a hero that's been around in Western civilization for really 3,000 years now. The idea that heroes are a paragon of virtue. And that's why I'm going to put up this picture of Christopher Reeves as Superman. And he's giving this child, I'm sure, the memory of a lifetime by, portraying Superman in front of him and giving a picture to him of himself and Superman. And that's the closest I'm sure this kid had ever come to touching a real hero. But the closest that most of us get to touching a real hero is through the stories that we read. And that's why they're so important. And the reason I wanted to talk about this in particular tonight was because, well, there was something that just struck a chord in that conversation I just had a couple of hours ago with Nick X and John's Long Box when we did our comic book team up stream. It was the fact that, over the last year or so, I've been getting a little bit, we'll say, down in the dumps, just because everything's been so negative everywhere, and it's just coming at you from all sides. And I don't like that, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who focuses on the negative, although a lot of people think of me as a negative. I want to focus on the positive, and I want to focus on the ideas that make me better and that will make others better, hopefully anyways, or maybe give you access to that touchstone of heroism through possibly what I say in my videos, hopefully what I give you in my books, which is the graphic novels that I produce. Only one is out so far, 2 more are in production, 1 is about to ship, and the links for those are in the description if you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you're new here. But the idea of heroism, again, on the page, in the broad strokes of a story, is something that we can grasp on and we can take into ourselves. That idea of being a paragon of virtue, that idea of being prudent and just and courageous and temperate, those ideas that have been, again, as I say, in Western civilization, the pinnacle of what human beings can do for themselves, just recognized as the pinnacle of that for thousands of years in Western civilization. And that's not something you're going to get within mainstream and even many indie creators right now. You're not going to get a sense of heroism. And one of the things that I'm always talking about is the Will Eisner way of making comics and his ideas about how, first of all, when you have stories, in his estimation, stories that do well are the stories that give the audience, which is really the culture that you're selling this story to, it gives them something that is missing within their lives. And that idea of heroism is missing in so many of our lives right now. And it's not just the heroism itself, but it's the idea of, I don't know, a positive idea, a positive icon, if you will, that you can put in your mind about, this is the kind of person I want to become. This is the kind of person I want to be like. This is the kind of thing that I want to do within my own life. Even if I can't fly, even if I'm not Superman, even if I don't have superpowers, I can still be a heroic individual. And it doesn't take powers to be a hero. As I say, it takes, and as you know, Western civilization says, it takes virtue to be a hero. It takes being just and temperate and prudent and courageous. That's all it takes. And any one of us can take those virtues into ourselves and make them part of our daily lives, which is what you're supposed to do in, again, Western civilization. It says, how do you become this paragon of virtue? You do it through these habits of virtue. You make it a part of your life. You make your choices revolve around the habit of being just and being temperate and being courageous. And you don't stand idly by when there is a chance for you to do something about a situation where you need to be just or temperate or prudent or courageous. You do that. You act upon that. And that's the most positive idea that I have run across, the most positive idea that I can really grasp onto and convey to other people. It's the idea of heroism. Um, it's the idea that that positive role model for each of us, even if we set it up for ourselves, for the betterment of ourselves, that positive role model is there. And that's the positivity that I want to grasp onto. That's the positivity that I've been missing over the last year. And again, I had said this in a couple of streams. It's missing a little bit because I got out of the habit of reading stories every day. And that was for several reasons. But I always read heroic stories. I try to read stories of great individuals, of mythological characters. And these are characters and stories with a hero in them, even if they're not the cultural hero of our culture right now. If I read Greek mythology or Irish mythology, these are not heroes that technically would be seen as heroes in our society right now, but they're heroes nonetheless because they're striving in their own ways to pursue greatness, to pursue this idea of being heroic, to be a hero for their people in different ways, things like that. And that positivity, that positivity is what I'm trying to convey and what I hope to do more and more with my channel, because I know that there is a lot of negative news out there and I do cover a lot of it a lot of the time. But going back to the roots of my channel, it's about heroism. It's about that heroic ideal at the end of the day. The reason why I'm thinking about these things, and I should in my videos really connect them back to that central idea more than I have been over the last, year or so, but to connect it back to that heroic ideal, that positive idea. Because again, as we can all attest to, I'm sure, the negativity around us in our culture today is just palpable. You can feel the negativity and you need something to fight against that. And that something can be coming from within you as well as the things that you consume. That is to say, just the stories that you read, because you can be that positivity and you can block out that negativity. That's the one thing really that I've been realizing over this last little while. There are many people on the conservative side or even on the centralist side of the argument that's arguing for some sanity in our world today because of the insane things that are going on. They're arguing for sanity, but at the same time, they give you nothing positive to actually hold on to. All they do is concentrate on the negativity. All they do is say, this terrible thing is coming in the future. This terrible thing is going to happen. Prepare for this next terrible thing. No, I say no. I say prepare today, right now, to be a better person. Do what you can do right now to be virtuous, to be honorable, to be just and prudent and temperate and courageous. Do those things here, now. Be happy and positive here, now. That is the way we fight against this craziness that has taken over our culture. That is the way that you actually get to have a sane society back. It's not concentrating on the negative. And yes, you have to prepare to some extent. You have to be prudent. That is to say, you have to look at what has happened before, what has happened around you, and to prepare a little bit for what is going to happen. And I know so many of us are hurting right now because of, just putting food on the table. But at the same time, putting that food on the table, or as much food on the table as you can, is so much easier to deal with if you have something positive to hold on to grasp onto, to be part of you. And that's the positivity that heroism really engenders. That's the positivity that heroism inspires within you when you read true heroic stories. And that's the thing. Reading true heroic stories is really what many of us have left. That's it. Because if there is so much negativity around us, and those true heroic stories you're only going to find in the past right now. There are very, very few you're going to find out within our culture today. But to find them is a must. To surround yourself with them is a must. Again, this idea that heroism comes from being virtuous, and virtues are habits, and you must be habitual. You must surround yourself with the habit of these virtues. Part of the habit of those virtues, for many of us, since we don't live them out by being heroic individuals day to day, is to connect to them day to day through our stories, through great stories of great individuals and great deeds. And this is why I love to read stories like Robin Hood, or stories, even like the Iliad and the Odyssey, stories like Celtic mythology, all these kinds of things, and even my comics, going back to older comics and older stories. And this is what we need to do. The idea for me is the fact that, my time is really precious right now. I'm trying to do so many things. And one of those is to get these stories out that I'm working on. But at the same time, if I'm going to sit down and spend my time consuming a story, it needs to actually be worth my time. And there are so many parts of entertainment out there right now where people just consume, and they just consume for the sake of consuming it. They think, yeah, it's a nice idea. Yeah, I suppose I was entertained for a moment or two, but that's it. And there are so many people on the internet, so many people on YouTube just consuming these things and spitting out their own take on it. And their own take is, well, it might be something that is emotional, but it's not something that's uplifting. It's not something that is going to engender an idea of heroism. So I say to myself when I look at a story, is there a hero here? Because if there isn't, I don't want to spend 2 hours with this, because I don't want to spend 2 hours with nasty, mean people. I already got enough of that in normal everyday life. I want to spend my time with a hero. I want to spend my time with someone better than me. That's exactly what Aristotle said, by the way. He said, when you create a hero in a story, it is someone who is more virtuous than the common man. I want to look for that hero, and I want to see them front and center before I consume this thing. I want to know he's there so that I can meet him and I can find inspiration within what he does, in what he shows me, in the heroism that he portrays within a story. That's a 2 hours of entertainment well spent. And I don't want to spend 2 hours being, quote unquote, entertained by anything else. If I'm not going to be inspired by what you have set down in front of me, then I don't want to consume it. That's exactly what I'm trying to produce. And that's what I think the future of entertainment really is. And again, it revolves around the idea of hero. And I just wanted to get that out tonight. I just wanted to say that. And really, because quite honestly, this is part of my habitual way of making sure that I stick to those ideas of heroism, and I concentrate on them, and I incorporate them more and more within my own life. And it's a must. I mean, it is a must within this life. I mean, even if things were much more positive than they are right now, they're still a must. But with things being as negative as they are around us today, they're just not more, well, more than a must, which is an essential, just to keep yourself sane. And that's what I wanted to say tonight. So I know it's not my usual make comics great again. And I didn't talk too much about comics, but there are some great comics out there that can give you heroic individuals. That's the comics and the hero stories that I grew up on. So they're there. You just got to look for them. And a lot of them are older, and don't be afraid of going back and reading old comics. All right. So I'm going to see who's here. John was the first one here. I want to give a shout out, another one to John for being here so early. Final Fantasy is here. Who else we got? Samuel is here. Let's say. Samuel has a question here. He says, I don't know, Crom, have you felt silk clothes? Sometimes something tells me you wouldn't use it as an insult if you've worn them. No. Well, let me see. He probably has, but being someone who was born in a barbarous nature, it's not something that he would find comfortable. Let's put it that way. Let's see who else is here. Elijah is here. How you doing, Elijah? Glad I could do a later stream for some people who don't get to participate in my early streams. Stress level is here. How you doing? Let's see. Samuel says, I always get confused with Michael Bancroft. It's because I also follow a set of twins who both have Bancroft as the last name. They're former Disney animators from the 90s. Really? That's really interesting. I was speaking of Michael Bancroft earlier just because he is part of the Iron Age Icons, one of his characters. Let's see. Scrolling down a little bit. Strictly Jake is here. How you doing? He says, hey man, some guys on Twitter told me your fantasy comic was postmodern because I called it a throwback. Why would this fool think that? I couldn't understand it. The idea of postmodern art is to take something and just repeat it over and over again, basically in a new format. So they're probably looking at my stuff and saying it's a repetition of, well, just think of the quintessential piece of postmodern art is an old picture. Let's say you'd see these things on people's walls, like in the 90s, a picture of Marilyn Monroe's face repeated like 24 times in a picture frame with different colors and different backgrounds. So it's nothing new. It's just a rehashing of the old with a slightly different tint. And that's what postmodern art really does. Just so you can look at something slightly different. So they might be thinking that my comic is a postmodern comic because I'm trying to reprint something old, but with a slightly different tint. But that's not exactly what I'm doing at all. I'm trying to give a new story, but I'm using older characters as the beginning point of that older story and to create a new story. As I said many times on my channel, the way that I tell a story is I look at a story that I find very interesting, but I think turns out bad in the end, or that I would write a different ending for, and I go ahead and I write that different ending for the story that I think is better. And then once I've finished writing the ending, then I go back and write the beginning, and then I have a completely new story. And that's what I did with Crom the Destroyer. I don't like the way that Robert E. Howard left the open-ended idea of Conan. I really didn't. I loved Robert E. Howard's stories, but the way he left it hanging open like that, where Conan just takes off into the blue, into the sea, and disappears, and that's the end of the stories. I didn't think that was a fitting ending for Conan. So I wrote a new ending to that. Now, some of this writing is in my mind and some of it I just sketch out, but I wrote a new ending to that. And then I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to incorporate X, Y, and Z into this new ending, it would make more sense if I go back and write the beginning in a different way than Conan actually existed. So I incorporated different characters into Conan, like Cole the Conqueror, like the other Robert E. Howard characters, like names elude me when I want them the most. That always happens to me. but I took several of his characters and a couple of Irish mythological characters as well, like Lou of the Long Hand, who else? Conor Mór, and a few other Irish mythological characters. And I tried to make a character that was a combination of all of them. And so it would make more sense about where this character ended up. Anyways, so that's what I do when I tell a story. I could see why someone might confuse it if they're just looking at it without actually knowing anything about it as postmodern art, but it isn't. It's really trying to create something new just based upon a prompt. That's all that I'm doing. Hopefully, I didn't lose anybody with that very long explanation. Let's see. Scrolling down, see who else is here. Calliope is here. Calliope says, Christopher Reeves was such a great man. I wish he had not suffered so much during his life. Well, while I agree, I also know that, and I always quote, with suffering comes perseverance. With perseverance comes character. So scrolling down. I think that's I don't know. I think that's a quote from Romans or Acts, one or the other. Scrolling down. Sound Engraver is here with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much, Sound Engraver, for the $2 super chat. And I always give Sound Engraver a shout out. Sound Engraver has a channel very much like mine, but she makes very different points, great points about the cultural zeitgeist, I guess you want to put it that way. So go over and give Sound Engraver a subscription to her channel. So who else we got here? Scrolling down. Michael is here. Michael says, I miss classic looking live action Superman so much. So do I. Honestly, I think this is a better picture of Superman here in the background with Christopher Reeve as a man being Superman than any CGI you're ever going to see of Superman. Doesn't matter how complicated it gets. Scrolling down. John says, heroes help calm stressful times. Yeah. And that's what many of us desperately need right now, is heroes. Vaz is here. How you doing, Vaz? Let's see. Sound Engraver says, down with the negativity and the fear mongering. Definitely. Live your best life. That is what is going to defeat this stuff. Jumping on the bandwagon of being critical for the sake of being critical, which is the enemy's tactic, or trying to control everything, which is again the enemy's tactic right now, or trying to just fearmonger your way out of everything so that you're prepared for everything. And just like that, like the current iteration of Batman, which is super preparedness man. He's prepared for everything. Don't you want to be like that? No, I want to live right now. I want to live right now and be positive right now. And that's what's going to defeat this craziness around us today, is normal people being normal, quite honestly. All right, scrolling down. John says, garbage in, garbage out, guard your mind and heart. Indeed. Everybody is throwing 2 cents into this conversation for the better tonight. Definitely. Let's see. Michael says, some people want to be miserable and sad. They're forcing their misery on everyone around them. And yeah, that's the quote unquote progressive left right now. They're miserable. They are miserable. They have no way out of their misery. And because really they don't deal with reality, they try to fantasize their way out of, whether it be through stories or through their political ideology. It's all fantasy. They try to fantasize their way out of their problems. They never deal with reality. Therefore, they suffer more and more all the time. And the only thing they can do with their suffering to try to alleviate it is to make others suffer with them. That's it. That's all that they are. That's all that they do. Everything boils down to that. They want to make you suffer because they're suffering. Let's see. Sound Engraver says, fourth age. That's what my sister and I stress. The conservatives just point at the problem and place blame. They don't solve the problem. They don't have a solution. I'll come back when you do. Yeah, indeed. And again, the answer to the problem is to just be normal and have a normal, healthy, everyday life. And being virtuous is part of that. Quite honestly, being virtuous is part of how you get to do that and still interact with other people in a society, because you're trying to live your best life and it's all about you, then as soon as you run into another individual, it's going to fall apart. So, the very idea of justice is to render to everyone what is their due, is to make sure that you deal according to others in reality when you encompass or encounter them. And yeah, that's a part of virtue. Let's see. Sound Graver says, I don't mean conservatives in general, just the mainstream guys. Yeah, politicians especially. Let's see. John says as well, Sound Engraver, sadly, the tumult is where the watches come from. We must rise above and provide better. We must rise above and provide better. Let's see. Scrolling down. Vaz says, trying to catch on with the 15 minutes I missed up, but not noticing the live stream was on at 1.5 speed. It's a mouthful. Yeah, indeed it is. Sorry about I didn't have a chance to set up the stream very early on today, so I just decided to do a very quick live stream. Let's see. Scrolling down. Let's see if I have any more comments here. Sound Engraver says, art inspires. It inspires the viewer, but also the artist is also inspired while he works. Yeah, indeed. I was just talking, again, as I said, I was talking to Nick Axe, one of the artists who's doing chapters 2 and 3 on Crom the Destroyer. We were talking on John's Longbox doing a comic book team up, and he's talking about how he puts so much energy into trying to make these pages and these not just anatomically correct, but to look alive. That's what he wants within his sequential art. That's what you need within sequential art. And how you make things look alive is by comparing them to reality. And really, that's where your inspiration comes from. And it is inspiring. It is really inspiring to look at reality and to be able to recreate the fundamentals of it. It's an inspiring thing. Let's see. Scrolling down. John says, art speaks the language of the soul, including music. I was just saying again to John just an hour ago, my first language is sequential art. Comics were always a part of my life from the very beginning, before I knew how to read. So, I knew how to talk, obviously, before I started reading comics, but I didn't know how to read when I started, quote unquote, reading comics. So my first language that I learned about was sequential art. And it is a beautiful language that I am trying my best to live up to the greatness of when I create my comics. Let's see. Sound Engraver also says, my channel's veering more on the music side again, but my weekend live stream focuses on art in general. Thanks for the shout out. No problem. Thank you very much for clarifying that, Sound Engraver. Let's see. Zaktan is here and says, that is ethos heroes have. That is the ethos heroes have, to be inspirational, if that's what you're saying, Zaktan. Here he says, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Yep, indeed. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Indeed. Let's see. Scrolling down a little bit. We have a comment here from John. He says, negative people need drama like oxygen. Stay positive. It'll take their breath away. That's a good quote. Samuel has another quote here from Wally saying, I don't want to survive, Otto. I want to live. Yeah. Let's see. John also says, evil prevails when you take the black pill. Indeed. Vaz also has a comment saying, I'm still a little bit behind, but can a pragmatic or realistic character be heroic? For example, Conan seems more a pragmatic character by not dwelling on the past amongst other traits. Quite honestly, I always think that of Conan. I know people don't agree with me a lot on this, but I always think of Conan as a hero in the fact that he's a man becoming a hero, because we know he ends up being a lawful good king who will sacrifice his life for his subjects. So yeah, and he's a just king. And so he's in the stories where you meet him most, where he's a barbarian, he's the man becoming the man who he is at the end, which is that just king, which is how he was first portrayed in the very first Robert E. Howard Conan story. So, that's the way I look at it. And so, to answer your question, yes, being pragmatic, definitely, you can be a pragmatic hero. Quite definitely. That's what prudence is all about. Prudence, which is the charioteer of all the virtues, is to make correct decisions. It's correct decision making. So it part and parcel as that is being pragmatic. So yes, answer your question, Vez. I would say yes. Let's see. Mystic is here. He says, "Oh hey, that Superman in the photo booth scene was filmed in my home city of Calgary. Was it? Really? I did not know that." Let's see. Sound Engraver says John's stream tonight was great. Thank you very much, Sound Engraver. Yes, Zach Dan says as well. Vaz, yes, many heroes are pragmatic. They focus on what they can do. Indeed. And that's what we need to do to be heroic in our own lives, I think, is to be pragmatic. Because again, charioteer of all the virtues is prudence. So let's see. Scrolling down. Mystic says that kid also played the toddler Kal-El in the first Superman. Oh, did he? Okay. These are new facts to me. Thank you very much, Mystic. All right. So this is going, I think, to be a short stream. I got to the end of the questions, the end of the chat, but I want to thank everyone for coming here for my short chat here tonight. If anybody else has any questions before I leave, I will leave it open for a couple of minutes as a ramble, and I'll try to answer those as well. But again, the reason why, just if you're late coming to the live stream, is because I'm going to do Comic Book Team Up next week on Wednesday on my channel. It was supposed to be John's, but we switched it over in order to do an interview with Adam Miller, because he's doing his Iron Age Icons campaign. It's starting next Friday, and I want to interview him to give him a bit of a leg up on the campaign, to try to get the word out there about his campaign, and also a little bit of self-promotion, because Cardinal, one of my characters, has been chosen as part of the Iron Age Icons campaign. So that's what I'm doing, why we're switching around the Comic Book Team Up from one channel to the other. John says, ramble on, and now's the time is now to ramble. Yeah. So I wanted to say that, and also to let everyone know that I will try my best to make sure that there is a live stream here every Wednesday. I know that things are getting a little bit hectic with my schedule and the printing schedule for the Valiant Heroes and the shipping and everything else. So things are getting hectic, besides personal life things just getting in the way. So yeah, that's why I'm focusing on being positive. That's why I'm focused on trying to be more heroic and to be more positive. And quite honestly, I want to thank everybody in the chat, just personally, for coming here and interacting with me and being part of this chat week after week, or whenever you can, because this is part of the positive lights in my week, to interact with you guys and to answer questions and talk about things that I'm passionate about. So I want to thank everybody. So let's see. There's a couple of more questions. We'll see if I can get through those with some speed here. Just very quickly, Sound Engraver says, congrats on your character making the icon. Thank you very much. Mystic says, I could also show you the building where evil Superman got smashed. Really? Okay. I wonder, were they all filmed there? I don't know, Mystic. But the one that really, what is it? It's the one with Richard Pryor. I think that's number 3 that really cements in my mind Metropolis, because I think that's where, anyways, it's like Luther Tower is and all that kind of stuff. I wonder if it's still there as well. Let's see. Scrolling down, John says, da, da, da. Seth, no, let's see. He's talking about positive streams that I should check out. Okay, I will make a note of that. Sound Engraver, let's see, Vaz and Sound Engraver saying goodnight. So let's see. Vaz also says, I was busy last week, but watched the stream the next day. The art was nice. Well, I wish I was more prepared for last week's stream. I will try to be more prepared next time. I just, there's only so much I found out that I can upload to StreamYard in order to show for art, which is what I was doing last week, showing new art from my campaigns. It's better if I just posted somewhere on the internet and then just scroll through it, probably through the Indiegogo campaigns or something like that. But I wanted to show new art as well. So I'll be more prepared next time. I want to show some good art. So let's see. Just one more comment here. Mystic says, many of the Smallville scenes from the original were filmed in Alberta, including the old Kent farm. Okay. Mystic has just extended the life of this live stream by putting in that comment. I want to ask this question of anybody out there. I just realized something with the first Superman movie. Okay. This was just like last week, 2 weeks ago. I was thinking about the first Superman movie because I'm trying to do a short story, basically based upon the sort of same location as the Smallville idea of the Kent farm. It's a very short comic that I was going to have done I was going to try to get it published it came out on a Wednesday, which is Alterna. But the artist, quote unquote, artist that I hired, I contracted to do the art. Well, he wasn't an artist at all. He was a scammer trying to get my money. He kept on giving me these sob stories about, if my kid is sick and I could just do your art if I had a little more money, if you could pay me first. And I was like, no, I don't know you. This is the first time you work for me. You show me some art and then I'll give you, I'll pay you per page, but you need to show me the art. Anyways, so long story short, I was looking at this artist and I need to look for a new artist for this short story. But I start to think about the scenes from the very first Superman movie. And I thought to myself, okay, if I'm remembering this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be misremembering this, but so you have young Clark Kent and he's on there on the farm with Ma and Pa, and his father dies, and then his mother is left there on the farm by herself with Clark. And this farm is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing but fields and fields in every direction that you look. Fields of wheat, if I remember correctly, right? There's a train. Smallville's not too far away, but they have a truck. It doesn't work terribly well. We know this from the beginning of the movie. And yet Clark takes off and leaves his elderly mother in this lone farmhouse in the middle of nowhere with, shoddy farm machinery and a broken down old truck and a tiny little town somewhere close by. To me, that's not exactly what you should be doing. I don't know. It never clicked into me before. It's like, I'm sorry, but your mother and the woman, I know, because this is one of the things I was looking into. This woman who was actually playing Ma Kent within the first Superman movie, I went into her background and saw some movies that she was in, because I like to go back to older characters, or to take female characters, beautiful female characters that I work on, and go back to 30s and 40s starlets. And she was a big actress in some movies, older black and white movies. But anyways, she's fairly old when she's doing Superman. And this elderly lady, there's no way she can take care of this farm. And I don't even think that she could probably, get into Smallville that easily. And yet Clark takes off. I realize he has a destiny. I realize that he has all these things to do, but who the heck is looking after Ma Kent? I mean, really? I don't know. Just let me know if I'm missing something with that. I just thought of that last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was thinking, what is the answer to that question? Because that does not seem very heroic. But maybe it's just movie magic. I don't know. We'll go through some more comments here because Mystic helped helped extend this a little bit of this live stream. What do we got here? Robert is here, coming in at the end. Greetings to you, Robert. Let's see. Michael says, I like Smallville, but it went on too long and we never got to see him in the Superman costume. That was one of the actual things they agreed upon before they even began the Smallville show, was that they would never show him in costume, no matter how long it went. I think that was one of the things they set in stone before they even began. So yeah, it was never going to happen. But yeah, I agree. It went on just a little bit too long. I liked it as well, but it went on just a little bit too long. Let's see, scrolling down. John says, good on you, RJ, for being wise to the scam. Well, I pay everybody. Quite honestly, it's shocking to work with artists, by the way, because most of my artists, when they give me an invoice, they get it paid the day they give it to me, or if I'm not online for a couple of days and don't see it, they'll get it paid within a couple of days. And most of them are profusely thankful that I pay them so quickly. And I'm like, that's just how you work in a normal business. Someone gives you an invoice, you give the money. Are you guys not getting paid on a regular basis by the other people who give you work? Honestly, I mean, really, it's shocking to me that this happens. But the point is that you have to work with me at the very least once and be able to show me that you can produce some art before I give you any money. And if you've worked with me a couple of times like Renzo, I got no problem. You want paid up front? I can give you some payment up front, no problem. But if you're going to be working with me for the first time, no, you show me the art, I'll show you the money. And that's the way it's going to work until I get some art, so. But really, there are scammers out there, so just be aware. Let's see. Scrolling down. Scrolling down. Let's see. Robert says that was a great movie. Yes, I agree. Superman 1 was a great movie. Sound Graver says, I'll ask my husband about Ma Kent conundrum. Her husband, by the way, in case anybody is wondering, is Professor Geek. So yes, Professor Geek would probably know. Let's see. Mystic says he mentioned that Ben Hubbard, presumably a neighbor, would be helping out while Clark goes away. Yeah. Okay, yes, I do remember that now that you say it. But at the same time, I've worked on a farm helping out. I'm sorry. Farming is a back-breaking, laborious occupation. It's not a job, it's an occupation. It's a lifestyle. And you can't get by on a farm with someone helping out. You can't, unless there's someone there, unless there's a farmer there. It's basically just going into decline, and maybe she's just selling off the stuff. I don't know, but it always it always, I don't know, it always stuck in my mind about the fact that this is a hard life and she's in the middle of nowhere. But I never really clicked into me until just recently about, hey, wait a second, now she's completely alone. But yeah, my experience working on a farm, having someone help out, that's not enough to actually keep you going. Sound Graver says, having a good business sense, RJ. Yeah, well, hopefully. There was a couple of people who tried to. One of them tried to not scam me. I had another person do something similar to me. It was the fact that they just weren't producing the art. They kept on showing me sketches, but not producing anything of quality. So, yeah, there are people like that out there. Zach Dan says, I paid in advance for the Thomas Valiant campaign and you came through. Well, thank you very much, Zach Dan. I have run several businesses in my life. So yeah, you're going to get what you pay for. Unfortunately, Valiant Heroes is a couple of months late, but you're going to get what you pay for when you order something from my campaigns. Final says, you'd think Clark would fly back and harvest the field every so often. That's what I was thinking, but That's what I was thinking. The only other thing I can remember from Superman 1 is that when he gets the job at the Daily Planet, he says, "Can you send half my paycheck to this address?" And yeah, okay, he's sending her money. That was after a while. He's grown up now. Obviously, he's been away for a while. Where she was getting money before that, I don't know. But even money, again, living on a farm, I'll tell you right now, money's not going to do it. maybe again, if she's given up the farm, and it's just a house now, that's where she lives. But leaving an elderly person that far out in the middle of nowhere by herself, I'm not sure about that. Let's see, scrolling down. But maybe he flies home all the time and checks on her. Maybe that would be the thing. But you would think that they'd give some hint of that in the movie. Anyways, maybe it's a deleted scene somewhere. Could be. Mystic says, I think it was interesting how they shot those scenes as the Rockies are visible from the west. Yeah, they were beautiful. It was. I was just listening to the soundtrack for Superman 1 a couple of hours ago tonight. It's a great movie all around. Let's see. Yes, Robert, show me the money. I will not show you the money unless you show me the art. That is what I said. Let's see, scrolling down. Tom is here. How you doing, Tom? Tom says Ben Hubbard would have to live there then. Yeah, Ben Hubbard would have to live there and actually be the farmer for that farm if it was to keep in shape. Michael says, the guy who played Lex Luthor in Smallville voiced the Flash in the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited cartoon series. Okay, I don't think that comment was for me, but interesting thing nonetheless. Let's see. Vaz also says, maybe Clark came to help every few days in a flash and back in Smallville without anybody noticing. That's, the only thing that I can think of, but you would think that there would be some mention of it. Tom also says he's helping out or moving in. Pick a direction, Ben. All right, scroll it down. What else we got? Zach Dan says maybe she switches to gardening, still hard, but less pure muscle. Yeah, I just honestly, because what year is it? I don't even know, because the movie came out in 1980, but what year is that set in? Is it set in 1980? I think when he gets into the Daily Planet. So, this is a really old farm. We're talking turn of the century, probably farmhouse and all that kind of stuff. A lot of upkeep. I don't know. That's just the practical side of me, knowing farms and knowing very rural areas, where I've been for most of my life. Let's see. According to Professor Geek, there was a novelization of Superman Returns where Clark organizes a community of helpers. Okay. All right. Well, still, it would have to be a community of helpers to, help her decline or sell off the farm, because still, quite honestly, I've worked on small farms too, and they need at least 2 farm hands in order to keep the place going, at least. And then we're talking about 2 live-in farm hands, people living in bunkhouses, besides the farmer. These are fairly technologically advanced places compared to what Ma Kent had. Calliope says, Miss Kent may just be allowing neighbors to use her land for a portion of the profit of the harvest. Well, that would make sense. That's a good idea, Calliope. That would make sense. Because, yeah, I know people who do that right now. They have old farms and they don't farm them anymore. And basically they let farmers come in and use the land, basically just keep it up, put fertilizer and stuff into it so that it stays well-tilled land, and pay the taxes on it. That's about it. So yeah, that could be an explanation. So let's see. Question mark is here and says, is the future of stories smaller scale stories, low fantasy versus high fantasy? Maybe this starts with a renaissance of short stories. Question mark. I would agree with all of that, because I do believe that's one of the things I was thinking about talking about tonight, was the fact that, part of what I've been talking about over the last couple of weeks is the decline of the Netflix and streaming services, because what they're in essence doing is making 8 to 12 hour movies, and there's no break there. You just got to watch the entire thing. It's not like one of the old broadcast network television shows where you had an entire story encapsulated in an hour and there were some overarching themes and overarching connections to a story that you could see every once in a while, but you just jumped in for an hour and you got yourself a good story and that was it. You can't do that with the streaming services, and you can't do that with just picking out one episode and watching it. You just can't. And so you get, again, these 8 to 12 hour movies. That's what they are, and people just can't make that commitment anymore. It's like, I'm not committing 12 hours of my time on something that is not going to pan out for me. So yes, I believe shorter stories are going to be the wave of the future. I did an entire video about the fact that I believe that low fantasy is what is going to be the wave of the future for stories as well. It's why I'm doing Crime the Destroyer, in part because it's low fantasy. I think people are going to strive for more low fantasy, get back to the basics, even if it's in the fantasy realm, to go back to low fantasy. And yes, I think that there will be a renaissance of short stories as well. It's one of the things that, one of the things that is prompting me to work as hard as I am to try and get my books out as quickly as possible, is so that it gives me more time to write. Because I'm not writing anything new right now until I get my late book out. I've stopped writing completely and need to focus on getting those books out, that book out, which is The Valiant Heroes. But because I want to go back to writing, and part of what I'm doing is writing short stories, which are Crom the Destroyer short stories, which I hope to get published. I have one of them published in Iron Age magazine, and I'm going to farm the rest out here and there, see if anybody wants them. If nobody wants them, maybe I'll publish them on my channel, or publish them with future Crom the Destroyer projects, stuff like that. So yeah, short stories I think are the way to go. That's partly what, again, I do with my books, because you get an entire story within Thomas Valiant, and what you're going to get within the Valiant Heroes, you get in one short story that is within itself, a story within itself, a beginning, middle, end show. So it is a short story mechanism that I'm using. Let's see, we're going to hit an hour. I thought we wouldn't hit 40 minutes and I was about to say goodnight, but we're going to hit an hour. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Question mark? No. Sound Engraver says, hope I'm quoting that right. Yes. It sounds like an interesting idea that they would probably put in a novel, but to me it sounds like people who've never lived on a farm. Let's see. Scrolling down. Abrax says, the thing about Ma Kent has been addressed in various ways over the years in the comics. Too many to get into here. Yes, I agree. It has been addressed in the comics. Yes, agreed, 100%. But not within the first movie. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Pedro says, hi, how you doing? Pedro, nice to see you checking in. Let's see. John says, oh yeah, my grandparents did that with their farmland. Yeah, that would be an idea. That sounds like something to me that's practical. Letting other people farm it for you. Sound Engraver says, we actually had RJ make it an hour live stream. yeah. Just get me off track, but that's no problem. We're talking about Superman. That's no problem talking about heroism. Let's see. Tom is here. Tom says, I'm definitely expecting small scale stories to start taking the spotlight. Movies and TV studios are going to have to learn that nobody cares when their world ending battles are too big. Yeah. And I completely agree. I kind of think, honestly, that it's going to be a similar thing that happened with the transition between the 60s and the 70s. You got very, very big budget movies, to the extent there were intermissions within them within the 50s and the 60s, not so much in the 70s. There were a couple of holdovers in there, but movies and a lot of different kinds of stories got way too big. And in the 70s, you got these tiny little stories, and they were in venues, even for movies, that were really amateurish compared to the movie making that had taken place, a decade before even. But they were smaller stories and stories that were just meant to be one-offs, and you did get a lot of people coming back to that kind of short storytelling. So I agree. I think we're going to have a revival of the short story in various forms. Let's see. Um, Sound Engraver says, love short stories. Working on short sci-fi stories right now. Very good. I would love to read that, Sound Engraver. That's you have a keen mind, and I would love to see where you go with science fiction. Zach 10 says, smaller stakes can counterintuitively raise the tension because it is more believable. 100%, Zach 10. 100%. That is exactly right. Let's see. Scrolling down, Mystic also says, we will likely see a contraction in Hollywood because budgets are getting out of control and audience interests is in decline. Yeah, we're going to see, I think, a revival of the indie movie as well. Hopefully, anyways. Small budget movies. You don't need, I mean, anybody can make a movie right now. You have such spectacular image quality on your cell phone right now. So the ability to make stories is there, and you just need people that will actually be able to write a good story and write a good script. And then it doesn't have to have giant CGI. It can be, you know, I've been getting more and more into my old Hitchcock movies. I mean, those are just good camera angles and tension built by, well, he was a master at telling a story, but really find someone who is like that and he can tell a story with the equipment on a cell phone right now and give you something that is spectacular. And that's what I think you're going to see in the future. Let's see. Samuel says, here's something I started noticing. The big studios might be slowly moving on from boomer and Gen X nostalgia bait to millennial and zoomer nostalgia bait. They're giving my childhood the treatment. Yeah, well, uh, I couldn't say for sure that that's what they're doing, but yeah, I wouldn't put it past them, Samuel. Let's see. Da, da, da. Let's see. John says, let's see. Sound Engraver, I'm not sure, but I think RJ is a fan. I just respect what Sound Engraver is doing, quite honestly. It is exactly in some ways what I'm doing, trying to give this idea, trying to give a positive idea out there into the world. Let's see. Question mark also says, are we headed towards more action-based plots? I don't think so. I honestly think we're headed towards more mystery plots, things that can be told fairly easily with editing and all the built by good storytelling. I think that's what we're headed towards. Maybe action-based plots on. Well, I'm talking about movies and television when I'm talking about that kind of thing. Maybe within themselves, where you can, simply use the words to describe action. Then yeah, more action-based plots there if you follow actual short stories. Let's see. Strictly Jake says, listen to your Chainsaw Man review. If a hero found and took in the main character instead of the stooges and villains that did, do you think this story could have been a heroic one? I honestly don't know the answer to that question, because that was quite honestly what I was talking about earlier in the stream. Is like I'm not going to spend 2 hours watching a movie if I can't see a hero there. And you need to show me the hero before I'm going to invest my time. And with Chainsaw Man, I started watching it, and usually what I do with anime is I give you 3, maybe 4. I give you 3, maybe 4 shows. And if you can't show me something that's going to interest me, then I'm just going to drop it. And if you show me something that really ticks me off, I'm going to drop it like a hot potato. So I don't know. I really don't know. I would have to actually probably watch the entire series in order to answer that question, which I have not. And I had not because I didn't see a hero. And if you don't show me a hero, I'm gone. And I think that's going to be the way it is for a lot of people moving forward. But, I think it's for the best. Let's see. Scrolling down. Scrolling down. If we have any more questions here. I'm just going through some of this. Let's see. Elijah has a question. RJ, yes, they are baiting us millennials. Well, it's all that they have. They can create anything new. So, they're going to run out of material because they're getting closer and closer to the actual generation where we are. But they have nothing else. Scrolling down. Mystic says, I bought all on DVD. Best entertainment purchase I made. I don't know what you're talking about, Mystic, but I continually say buy physical media. DVDs are great. You can get them for $1 right now, and you can buy, go to garage sales. You can get them for 25 cents, and you get the original version, and it's good, and you can watch it over and over again. And that's what I'm doing right now. It's like I went last night. It was just last night. I went on to Pluto TV because it's this new thing I heard about. I'm sure it's been around for a while, and they have old shows on there, but I can't find, the Star Trek is on there. And I just think, I'll click on some Star Trek and watch some Star Trek. They got the stupid new introduction, that is to say, the CGI converted exterior scenes. That ticks me off. It ticks me off honestly, if I want to watch an old Star Trek episode, I want to watch the old Star Trek episode. Give it to me and it's an original. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to hook up my VCR, get the box of tapes out that I have somewhere stuck in a closet. And if I want to watch Star Trek, I'll watch them because that's the original. That's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I'll scroll down here and see if anybody else is listening to my ranting anymore. Let's see. Scrolling down. It's physical or nothing for me. Indeed. I agree. And that's why I can't wait for summer, because I can't wait for yard sales, because, I want to go get more movies. All right. Live stream. We've been live streaming for 1 hour and 7 minutes when I didn't think we'd get past the 35-minute to 40-minute mark. Thank you very much, everyone, for showing up. And as an added bonus, I will leave you all with the second trailer for Crom the Destroyer. Once again, thank you very much, everyone, for showing up. And next week, we have Adam Miller on for Comic Book Team Up on our Wednesday live stream, talking about his Iron Age Icon campaign, which opens next Friday on Fund My Comic. And one of my characters has been chosen, Cardinal, as part of the Iron Age Icons. So we'll be talking about that next week. I'll see you all then. And since no
matter how many wars you fight, no matter how much blood you shed, no matter how much rage you loose, no matter how many demons you face, no matter how many companions you lose, no matter if our kingdom falls, I know that you will return to me in honor.